We're going to get
Let's
rolling.
start it. Got 60 in. Let's
You
start
ready?
it up.
Yeah,
Okay.
man, make it happen, Captain.
Just listen.
There was a little skepticism because I knew, oral peptides weren't really a thing. Focused, energized, and hydrated. And dude, from the first dose of that stuff, man, my brain just quieted.
Procedures on my shoulder, and within 3 weeks, I had full mobility.
The opportunity here is incredible.
The breakthrough begins the moment you decide.
Hey guys, I just want to start by saying how awesome it was to meet some of you in Orlando. What an amazing event, and we really hope to see more of you in Dallas in September. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us, and welcome to Make Men Talk. We created this space for men who want more than just a workout, more energy, more clarity, and more control over their health. We are here to have real conversations about training, mindset, family, pressure, and purpose, and how taking control of your health can truly transform your entire life. Make isn't about shortcuts. It's about restoring the signals so your body can work the way it's supposed to. So your effort actually brings results. No hype, no pretending, just men striving to grow to become better men. Welcome. Let's make it happen, guys.
All right, guys. I'm Sean O'Quinn. Today we have a special guest, Nate Detracy. So today I want to introduce someone whose life and career have been dedicated to helping people perform at their highest level. Nate Detracy. Nate's been a certified personal trainer and IFBB pro with nearly 2 decades of experience in health, fitness, and performance industry. Since 2007, with leading international wellness organizations, helping guide tens of thousands of individuals towards improved nutrition, optimized wellness, and measurable physical transformation. His expertise is built on extensive nutrition and training certifications, formal education in anatomy and kinesiology, and years of continuous self-directed study rooted in evidence-based protocols. Along with his wife, Jennifer, affectionately known as Jim, Nate's also built multi-million-dollar businesses in health and wellness space. The two are deeply committed to putting their marriage and family first, and they believe that foundation of dedication is what makes them a true power couple in everything they pursue. Nate's approach blends science, discipline, and real world experience, helping individuals and organizations turn knowledge into action and achieve sustainable results. Please join me in welcoming Nate Detracy. Nate, how are you, brother?
Good, man. Good to be on here.
Oh, man, it's so great to have you. Dude, I've been pumped up about this for since Orlando. I got to talk to you. I was like, dude, that's the man right there. So let's go through. Can you take me through, because you sent me all your accolades, and I would like you to just talk about a few of those, kind of bring us through some of those that you accomplished on your way up to where you are now.
Yeah. I'd say my health journey kind of started back in '99. Started as a sports massage therapist, and kind of quickly found out it's more who you know than what you know. So I dabbled in that for a couple of years with some of the professional and amateur teams up in the Seattle area, but ended up going back to school through American College of Sports Medicine. Got my degree in personal training, and then kind of really stepped into that. And just I grew up loving to be at the gym. My mom used to bring me to school prior to school starting, so I go lift weights with the coaches and that kind of stuff. So just loved it, and so dove into that. Unfortunately, 2001, my parents actually passed in a car accident and kind of threw me for a loop. I was 23 years old, and just got lost for a minute. Got into drugs and alcohol, and just trying to figure out how to deal with the pain and numbness and that type of thing. And so I saw this guy totally transform at the gym and asked him what he was doing. He said a bodybuilding show, and I said, you know what? I grew up idolizing that. I want to do that, and so really gave me the opportunity to kind of throw everything, all the emotions into something and take control of it. We can, in any situation, we can be a victim, or we can try to take control. And I think when you have a victim mindset, you have a lack of control. And so that was something I could control, and the gym was always there for me. And so fast forward, I ended up becoming a national level and then a professional bodybuilder. And during that time, I opened up a supplement store. It was a max muscle supplement store with a private studio in the back. Did that for a couple of years, outgrew that, opened up a full-size gym in 2005, and had a really great establishment. It was a boutique style gym, but had all the equipment for a professional bodybuilder. And I attracted a ton of national and professional bodybuilders to work with me there. And so was thriving in that until the crash happened in 2008, 2009. And then quickly found out, it's not just about what you know, it's how you market yourself. And I didn't know how to market myself in tough times. And so I found myself struggling for a couple of years, and in walked my future wife. As she was a personal trainer. Just quickly on her story, I know this is a guy's talk, but she was in a very, very abusive relationship, had a 1 and a 3-year-old, ended up was beat so bad that she was bleeding out her ears. And so she packed up one suitcase, moved from Arizona up to Seattle to start her life over with her mom at the age of 28. And
Wow.
so she pitched me direct sales, that she was cocktail waitressing at night, personal training during the day, and she was working on this direct sales company called Advocare. And to be honest, you guys, just I respected the grind that she was in, but I was too prideful to do something like that, even though I was struggling behind the scenes. And nobody
Sure.
knew the gym was struggling, but I was struggling. And so I watched her for about 2 years grind at that. And she went on to become the first single mom to make it to the top level of that company. She was making about 40 grand a month. And it just forced me to lower my ego and take a look and say, okay, show me what you're doing. And so, long story short, I chased her in the business for a while, and then eventually in a relationship. I got to just under the level that she was at, and then we ended up getting married. They created a couple more levels, and we thrived in that for until 2019. So we were doing seven-figure income in that from, I think, about 2013 to 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that was kind of my first run at direct sales. The That company was owned by someone who had passed away, or I guess founded by somebody that had passed away and left it to his three daughters. And running a direct sales company is hard work with all the incentives and everything going on, and the constant change in the world. And so the daughters decided that they didn't want to run it, and essentially rolled the whole company, rolled all of our work up to the company to make it a one level type of payout. And so we went from a six-figure income a month down to $1,000, and they gave us 7 weeks to figure out what we were going to do. And
What?
so yeah, so it was again one of those moments, definitely a defining moment, just like when my parents died, that really made us have to assess what we were doing, because at that point we had grown so hard in that business and brought so many people along. We had to assess, could we do it again? And like anything, we all have doubts, and sometimes we feel like we're put in the right position, but we don't know if it's luck or if it's truly our skill. And so we went out and we interviewed 10 different companies, and we were actually starting to think about walking away from direct sales. And then we met a guy named Justin Prince. And
Hmm.
and so if you guys have not heard his backstory, he was a part of two direct sales companies before Modere, the company that we met him at. And he had actually sold away his direct sales company. He was at the very top of the company, was a national speaker, traveling all over the world, sold away the company because he thought it was a flawed model. And so old direct sales is a self-consumption model where essentially you bring people in and they want to use the products, but you talk them into a bigger discount by bringing other people into the business. And so you take customers that want to be customers and you start to force them to have to be business minded. And so you get a lot of erosion from the bottom up with the old direct sales model, right? And
Leaves a
so
leaves a bad taste in their mouth.
yep. So he didn't feel like, so the reason he sold out of that was he didn't feel like he could make a promise that anybody could come in and win like he was winning. And so he sold his company away and became a consultant in a company called New Ways that later became Modere, hired him to create something different that was going to kind of change the space in direct sales. And so they came up with something called social retail. And we came in about 5 years after they really got that thing going, and kind of was one of his first really big teams to really, really take off. And so me and him became very close because at his peak, he was making 1.4 million a month, which was just, it blew my mind. In our previous company, the highest leader was making about 300,000 a month. So it took my mind to a whole different level of what was possible. And he wanted to pick my brain and understand more about bodybuilding and how to change your body. And so we became super, super good friends, and just, fed each other different types of information. And so So fast forward, we did that until 2024. And for different reasons I won't get into right now on here, but he wasn't a part of that company anymore and decided he wanted to build his own company, the company that we're all a part of now, Make Wellness. And he came to me. I was the first one that he really came to and kind of shot the idea past. And I was like, you know what, I want to be a part of this. And the reason why wasn't because of the idea of peptides, which peptides, we all know that that's an amazing space to be in right now. Everybody's talking about them. For us to have a natural peptide, it gives us a different conversation. But for me, it was the first thing he said is, I want to help build the next generation of leaders. And what I saw in our first company in Advocare was it was primarily made up of teachers, coaches, and pastors. And one of the things that I didn't talk about earlier is that whole time that I went through that transformation to become a pro bodybuilder, I looked amazing on the outside, but I was struggling on the inside, and I hadn't
Yeah.
fixed what was on the inside. And so that company really took me in and really helped me to become a better person on the inside and be a more of a servant versus you just using people. And so when he said that about this company, I was like, I know what that's like. I watched it in Avocare where you would have leaders that were bringing up their kids, and their kids got to hang around other leaders and got to hang around other leaders' kids, and you started seeing this generational, I want to say, mindset wealth that
Yeah.
they acted different, right? And so when he said that, I was like, I'm all in. And so we ended up in 2024, we were the first to walk away from a seven-figure income in our previous business to sit out for 6 months to help start this up.
Dude, that's a I mean, I've heard of leaps of faith, but that's a leap of faith right there.
You got to have some serious faith right there.
Yeah, man, that's freaking brutal. I mean, obviously I'm glad you did it. I think it's fantastic, and I understand why you did it because I the time that I've spent with Justin Prince is just been amazing, and he's the dude is solid as an oak, and truly I don't know how he walks around with that heart as big as it is in his chest. Um, let's talk about a little bit about you and how you use make in your day-to-day life, and you do a lot of personal training still, correct?
Yeah, I train myself. I don't train others. Um, I create. You're on mute, Sean. I create programs and stuff that the team can use that can definitely help others. But I don't get into the gym to train others anymore.
Okay.
Um,
Well, Ben, I think Ben has some questions for you that he wants to ask you along the personal training lines, and maybe it's something that can help other personal trainers because I spend a lot of time trying to get personal trainers to use these products with these people, right? Because personal trainers do a lot of business by word of mouth, and that has direct reflection on their clients. So the better their clients look, the more the word of mouth, the better their issues are. I mean, the better their clientele grows, right, Ben?
Yes, sir. Let's jump into it then. Absolutely. So, as a health and fitness professional, former bodybuilder Nate, and a fellow gym owner, can you explain your system behind Make Wellness Bioactive Precision Peptides, both inside your facility and as an additional service to increase profitability?
yeah. Well, let me say this, and let me bring it back to, when I was in Avocare, because Avocare I had to make a shift.
Hang on, I'm
Somebody
going to mute
mute that.
everybody, Nate, and then unmute yourself. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
cool. So I'm going to bring us back to Avocare because that was kind of when I was starting to make that transition. 2011 was when I really bought into doing something a little bit different, but still running the gym. And here's what was going on is at the time I was a great trainer. I was totally booked, but I had maxed out on how much time I had, right? I was trading time for dollars. And even though I was charging the max amount, I couldn't make any more. And so I had to make a decision. How do you start to leverage your time, and how do you start to leverage other people by training them versus just, when I say training, creating teammates that are doing the same thing and they're winning. And because of that, you're getting a small profit of what they're making, right? And so one of the first things that I did, and I talked to a lot of gym owners, a lot of trainers, a lot of athletes in these positions, is sometimes you have to take a step back in order to take a step forward. And again, everybody has to assess their situation, and different people do different things for different reasons. But for me, what I had to do is I had to make sure like I had become a trainer that people showed up, they paid their money, and they got great results. But a lot of times they weren't doing nutrition or they weren't doing supplementation. And so I basically had to step back and say, hey, look, in order to be a part of what I'm doing here, and if it's not for you, totally cool. I always pull it back and take it away too. I said, you have to be doing nutrition with me and you have to be taking the supplements. And so I probably lost probably a third of my clients in the first 3 months. And I had a lot of other trainers. So what I did is just dealt them to other trainers. But I doubled down on making sure that my clients were doing their nutrition and were taking their supplements and were coming in like normal. And because they started getting such amazing results, it instantly not only filled me up, but I ended up 4Xing the people that wanted to be a part of training with me. And so then I had to change my whole system and actually went to a system where instead of training one person every hour, I would train four and they would pay for the spot, whether they showed up or not. And so again, you have to determine. I understand this. Like the gym is when somebody builds a gym, that is part of their family. That's part of who they are, their identity, right? Like you have to assess, is it working for you? And if it is, awesome. You can add these things in and you can do it here and there. If you want to take off like we did, that led me to, it took me 2 years to get to a six-figure income from the time that I hit go. And then me and my wife obviously got married in 2012, but then we jumped to a seven-figure income. So it started to compound really, really fast. And actually, once I decided to let go of the gym, what I found is because I'd helped all the trainers make more money, when they went to their respective places, most of them went back to like different places where they grew up. We ended up, at the time I lived in Seattle, we had a major team that was in Fort Worth, Indiana. We had one in LA, we had one in Alaska, we had one in Texas, and we had one on the East Coast in Philadelphia. And in all of those, we're doing hundreds of thousands of dollars and creating massive amounts of money for us residually. And so again, you have to weigh, what's important, but as a gym owner, as a trainer, you always have to lead by example and show that it works first before others are going to follow.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Couldn't agree more. I mean,
Product
so,
of the
so
product.
you have to be a product of the product, period. So let's lean into the bioactive precision peptides then. So you have a trainer guide that you put together that's a part of Make Wellness. You've shared several challenges that are used within that in the gym setting. Like, what would you say is the most successful way to launch those challenges in the gym? I mean, let's talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah.
Introducing the peptides and such.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, number one, let's first talk about, I guess, like about our products, right? We're in this moment in time where peptides, especially on the weight loss side, is becoming a very relevant conversation. In fact, right now, I think it's 1 in 8 Americans are using a GLP-1, which is just crazy. And the crazy thing is you don't necessarily have to be a doctor to get a hold of these and sell them to people, right? And so they're finding all different ways. We call it the gray area, like where people don't necessarily have to have the licenses in order to get these into people's hands, and so then you don't have the blood work done. So that can become a little bit scary. And the reason why is because those were specifically designed to slow down the gut's absorption. And so what it actually does is it creates malnourishment. Now, if somebody, and I've talked to, I'd say we've been doing this, what now, for a year and a half. We probably have about 300 to somewhere in between 300 and 400 medical professionals that are now a part of our, Make Wellness. And so I get to talk to a lot of them. And so I ask them a lot of questions. And one of the things I ask them very consistently is are you providing a meal plan? And almost all of them say yes. And I'm talking about the ones that are pushing GLP-1s. I said, are you providing exercise and education on that? They say yes. But the truth is the majority of the people are not doing the stuff that they're being taught. Now that's a little bit different when you have somebody coming into the gym, but we also have to look at, as athletes and as trainers and as educators, we have to look at like what's out there and how do we educate at a higher level to get people moving in the right direction. Well, what's starting to happen, they're starting to see things like, and the other day, one of the doctors were talking about rickets coming back. like just malnourished, decrease in bone
Wow.
density, like all kinds of different things. And so what's going to happen over time is you're going to see this fallout of it's a lack of lean body mass is what it is, right? And so my point in saying this is synthetics for the most part what they do is they work really really well and they work really fast, but most of them have a long half-life, meaning they don't allow the cell to rest like it's supposed to rest. Okay. Our products, they have a very short signal. So they get in there, they signal the cell, but then they follow the natural circadian rhythm of the cell. So it gets in there, creates a cell, creates a chain reaction, and then it allows it to rest and recover. And that's why we take the products every single day, is because they work within 20 seconds to a minute, and then they're done. And they break down into amino acids and they dissipate in the body, right? When you're talking about synthetics, you're talking about something that's a lot more powerful and works a lot longer. And so you're going to a lot of times have those side effects. So all of that to say, we have a product that's very safe that anybody could get into people's hands and they could start to utilize, and they're going to be healthier at the cellular level, meaning anything that they do, it's going to benefit, it's going to increase the benefit of if they're eating right, if they're exercising, if they're doing those things. And so it can
Multiplies their efforts.
yeah. And so it can really compound when you're talking about being a trainer or a nutritionist or a gym owner on the efforts that they're doing, you're going to see results a lot faster.
I love that.
That's so great. I mean, do you want to get into your system? I mean, do you want to talk
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah. Well, so there's, I put a booklet together that has, I don't know, it has like 6 or 7 different systems that different gym owners have done. I think one of the ones that has actually worked the best, that actually really impressed me, is called a buyback system. And so what they do is they run it, this gym. This was actually out of LA, a gym out of LA. And what they do is they create a 3 month system where 2 months of it they're teaching them to diet, and then 1 month they're teaching them to reverse diet. And that stuff's not in there. The concept is in this book. And so what they do is they have a waiting list for people to get in there, and they only take so many, okay? And so however many that they can handle. But they basically say, okay, if you lose this much, and I'm just going to make up a number just for the heck of it, if you lose 20 pounds of fat during your 2 months, um, and you do these things. And so what they do is they say every time you come into the gym, you got to come in a minimum of 3 times. You got to post about that. You got to post about like one meal that you're doing and one product that you're doing a week. If you do all those things, we'll pay for your products when you're done. You've gotten your results. So what it does is they start to be the people that are actually recruiting, because they're putting all this stuff out on social media. They're tagging the gym or the trainer, right? And so even if you end up paying them, it's okay, because you're paying to see everybody to see their results. Right. And so it's just a really, really smart system that they have going, and something that that would be one of the first ones that I would share, and I think it would work really well.
Yeah, that's excellent. If anybody's on this call that has not seen that trainer guide, it is awesome. And make sure that whoever asked you to be on this call, we can get that to you if you haven't seen it, for sure. Definitely worth looking at. Phenomenal resource.
It's in chat. I posted it in chat.
Okay, terrific. Awesome. All right, so let's go a little personal then. So as a former IFBB pro competitor, that is a grind that most don't understand, right? It requires eating a certain way, supplementing a certain way, hydrating a certain way, training, prepping, posing, and getting ample sleep. So how does the system behind Make Wellness compare to that life you once lived? Because clearly you're staying extremely fit, Nate. Yeah, what's your story, man?
Yeah, there's some secrets. Tell us the secrets.
Yeah, well, I think a couple things. I think success is always about work ethic, right? And consistency. And so when you start to create, I call it stacking habits. When you start to stack habits and they become part of your identity, I think the biggest thing that when I'm sitting down with somebody new and they're trying to make a change, we can take the right products, we can eat the right foods, we can work out, but can we do it consistently, and can it become part of who we are, right? For me, in order to work hard and to be a good husband and to be faithful to my, to my God, and exercise is a big part of that. Exercise is a big part of my identity. And in fact, 2 years ago, when I was making that change from our previous company to this, my son was 23 years old and he wanted to do his first bodybuilding show. And so we ended up training together. I hadn't competed in 12 years. I'm like, you know what? I'll come back and I'll do a Masters Pro and I'll do my last show ever, and you can do your first show ever, and it'll just give us time to like, like my son got out of college, and so he's been kind of distant, and so it gave us time to like really bond and talk and just do life, life lessons, that kind of stuff. So we spent about a year bulking up and putting on muscle, and we're 16 weeks out from we're starting to cut down for the show. Usually 16 weeks is when you really start to hit it hard. Well, I end up compressing 4 discs, and two of them so bad that I totally lost my whole left side. So I lost my left tricep, my chest, and my lat, like just disappeared over a 2-month span, and massive, massive amounts of pain. And so I realized how much that physically fit and being healthy and seeing yourself like that, and also utilizing that as a gift to start conversations and all that, how it impacted my identity. Right. And so I think as we start to like understand who we want to become, and it's not just about doing those things, it's about you do them because of who you are, right? The whole I am statement. I am, therefore I do. And so that's the mindset that I would say is the most important. And then you start to stack all these other things and you utilize our products, then you're not gonna lose. You're gonna over time, you're gonna transform and be something totally different.
Oh, what an awesome. I mean, that was a great answer,
That's
Nate. Seriously,
yeah,
unbelievable.
that's
And
that's that's
that's it.
freaking
We had a
great.
good discussion a few shows back, just talking about the aging athlete a little bit, but it does kind of lean into that just a bit, man. Like, do you have that structure you had as a young man? I mean, I was a competitor in '04, never pro, but like, no, I don't train that same way, but I'm consistent and I believe in the habit stacking. And that was a great answer, Nate.
Hey Nate,
Um,
let's take a second. Ben, let's
but
take a second. Nate, can you tell us about the business side of Make? Like if somebody's on the call and they're wondering, what I tell people is if dude, if you find something that you love, right? Like if you're a hunter and you find this freaking rifle and this rifle has zero kick and you hit stuff like 80% of the time because it's so accurate, you're gonna tell all your buddies, right? You're gonna tell all your hunting friends about this new rifle. And for me, I feel like Make's the same way. So, I tell people if you're gonna use a product that works this good, then then you might as well get paid to tell your friends about it. What are your thoughts on the
Yeah,
business side of it?
Yeah.
sure. Let me just ask you real quick, Nate. I just want to know because being a successful business owner here and bringing it over to me to me, what shares can you share what drives your passion for this venture and what sets us apart from everybody else? Because that's a huge thing, especially in your space, right? I can imagine other companies came to you, right? So what sets that apart here at Nate and that difference for you?
Yeah. Well, I alluded to it earlier. It's honestly it's the culture that Justin Prince wanted to build from the beginning. Because the truth is, let's take our middle company. Like I said, this is our third company we've been a part of. The second company that we were a part of didn't have the culture that we thrived, that everybody thrived in. And it was a lot of leaders that came from a lot of different places. And because it had already had been established, people kind of just came in and did their own thing. And what happened is there was people on our team that we had helped make, 20 grand a month, but we didn't share the same backbone of who we are and the culture that we were trying to build. And as soon as things got tough, they jetted. They weren't in it for the right reasons. They were in it for the money, right? And so I think when you have something special like this, it's culture first, and then it's the products, right? And then it's because of that, it's the money. And so, when I look at who I am inherently, like when I would say, I don't remember, it was 2000, maybe, I don't know, 14 or 15, I ended up stepping into a church and helping build a church for about 4 or 5 years and became part of the core four that really like helped to build that church. Not so much because of how deep my faith was, but because I was really good at bringing people in and I had a servant heart. And so I really meshed and I got to learn a lot during that period of time. Well, what I loved about that was I could prove to myself that I could serve people and it wasn't about the money. Because you can say whatever you want, but until you have to do that or until you want to do that, when you don't get a benefit from something, you never really know if that's the under root cause, right? What I love about this business is when that church actually separated, we had during COVID, we were up in the Seattle area, and it's crazy up there. There, LA and New
Yeah.
York are just a different type of culture, let's call it. And so the church that we weren't allowed to have church for about 2.5 months, and so the pastors kind of reassessed, and they decided to go in different directions in different areas. And I remember praying for probably about, I don't know, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden it was like an audible voice one morning that was just like, I've already given you a platform. You don't need a building. And so I really look at this as the opportunity. Here's the truth is we earn people's trust through health and through finances. But I have people that open up about the deep things that they're dealing with, and I get to minister to those people. And you just don't get that chance in real life. Like when we used to run the church, I was really known within that church, and I could go up to people and be like, "How you doing?" And their life could be falling apart, and they're like, "I'm good, I'm good." And it was really hard to break that into that. And in this, people break down all the time, and it's like a family. And just like you guys said at the event, you have people that are not monetizing from each other because they're cross line, but they all care about each other, and it's all for one. And that's what's really special about this. Then you take the peptides and that conversation, and just how I feel like we can truly help the United States first, but the world to start to see a little bit different, because there's going to be a backfall from a lot of these synthetics. A lot of them, especially in the gray market, they're not even studied. And they're all just being utilized, but we don't know the long-term effects, where our products have actually gone through human clinicals and studies. And again, they follow the natural rhythms of the cells. And so what's going to happen is we're setting a foundation right now where we're going to have a lot of people that start to look at this and say, okay, you guys have stuck around. We're one of two companies to ever do 100 million in sales in their first year as a startup. So we already done something cool, but we've still got to, as leaders, we've got to grind, and we've got to pull. I was talking to you guys earlier. We've got to pull the men together, because right now, I would say it's probably 70%, 75% women. You start to bring men in as well, and all of a sudden you start to change the households, and you really start to dive into the changing of a culture that becomes strong again. And so for me, that's the most important thing. And so when I look at this business, that's what has drawn me here, and that's why there's nothing that could ever drive me away from this.
Yeah, and that's what I aligned with you and with Justin. It's those values, it's those family morals, and putting that first and building that. That's the foundation as men, right? And that's why we started this group, and that's why we have guys like you come on and speak to us. It's huge. Thank you.
100%. 100%. Ben, you had another one, didn't you, Ben?
I got one more. I got one more question, but it's a little more like, what do you want to share? So what additional supplements do you take? I think that when I'm on the peptides, of course, I've been on them since the beginning, and I think it's an ongoing question. What supplements can you take? Can you take supplements? What do you take, Nate? Share with us a little bit about your supplement life.
You guys, I'll be an open book. So when my parents died and I said I got into drugs and alcohol, when I jumped into bodybuilding, I really exchanged one drug for another. And, luckily for me on the outside, it drew a positive draw towards me, and then I could build off of that. But I got really deep into steroids. And when in that day and age, there wasn't doctors to do the blood work and all that kind of stuff, right? So you're guinea pigging on yourself. Well, because of that, over time, when me and my wife got married, and then we got in, a couple of years, and I wanted to have kids, I married into 2 kids, and I was like, I really want to have a son or a daughter of my own. And so we tried for many years, and I couldn't, because of what I had abused in the past. But one of the things, when I got off of everything, I felt horrible. So I went back to a TRT doctor, and so I do my blood work, and I take a small amount of TRT so that it keeps me healthy. And the reason I'm saying this is because I've had a lot of people. Now TRT is very normal. It's very normalized. And I didn't realize it until when I started getting ready for a show, and everybody's coming up. Back in the day, it used to be taboo to talk to any bodybuilders about steroids. And, you had to go around the corner, and you had to prove yourself that you were a bodybuilder for a while before anybody would talk to you about that kind of stuff. People were just normal. People were coming up and just asking out loud in front of everybody. And at first I was just taken back. And then I realized we're just in a different day and age. And so when I started getting connected to doctors and understanding there is a really good benefit to doing TRT the right way. And it helps to maintain lean body mass that decreases inflammation, that does all the things that, helps your risks of cancer and all kinds of things. So I'm saying that because our products work hand in hand with TRT, and they're going to help, for instance, our fit, at 4x is protein synthesis. Can you imagine if your body's more efficient at building, but then it's also more efficient at utilizing the building blocks because you're putting our products in there? Or we're getting deeper REM sleep and deep sleep where our body is actually leveling out its hormonal balances and recovering faster. All those things are super important. So to answer your question, I do a small amount of TRT. I'm a huge component on omegas. I take a lot of omegas. I take a probiotic, and I take a multivitamin. And so those are my main three. And then I take pretty much all our supplements, our 7.
Excellent.
Awesome. There's a question in the chat I actually wanted to hit you with because it's actually a pretty good one, Nate. So if you had 30 seconds to sell Make Wellness to a high-level client, what would you say?
Yeah, well, I think here's the thing. I don't think that's a good question.
That's a lot to cover.
Number one is I've gotten to a place and there's some people that are really good at doing a 30-second pitch, right? However, what I have to ask myself is, am I here to serve somebody and connect a problem to a solution? Or am I here to sell everybody the same thing? And so if you're going to have an elevator pitch, you're trying to sell everybody the same exact thing, and you've got that thing down so that you can just throw it out there, right? What I would suggest, and what I think what will happen is over the long term, is if you get really good at asking questions. And so in our first company, like I said, we had a really good culture. I had a really good friend. When the company was starting to slide backwards, I had a guy that lived up in Alaska that their team was crushing it. And so we'd come up with all these little trainings, and one of them was you always ask a minimum of 4 questions. And the reason why is we used to have a little contest, like how deep could we get in 4 questions? Because if you start to ask a lot of questions, then you start to create almost a menu of what does this person need that I can help them with? Or even better, you're like, this person doesn't need my help. I'm just going to cheer them on. If you do that and you get to a place, I call it relaxed intensity. If you get to a place where you're always there for their benefit, not for your own, you will have people, because eventually somebody's going to get to a place where they're going to need something. And if you're the first person that they think of because they trust you, because well, I call it relaxed intensity because I'm always on and I'm always doing my thing. But if it's not for you, it's totally cool. And actually sometimes I'll pull it away because there's more power in that. And so
Yeah.
what I would do is instead I would rephrase that and say, what are some really good questions that I could start to ask that just get into, where somebody is, right? And then and then get good at thinking through that and saying, how do I help this person? Whether it's, hey, I need to push this person over to my friend that runs a church because he needs relational help, or I need to do it. You start to line up these people that you really trust that you can actually help by being a connector.
I like it.
So let me ask you a question, Nate. Back on the personal training side, I don't know. It's been my experience that when somebody loses a lot of weight, as you lose weight, I should say, you also lose muscle mass. Now, I've found, and in my personal journey, and with others that I've used in-body scans with, I've found that people that are taking these peptides, they're losing weight and they're actually putting on muscle.
Yeah.
And that's something that I have never experienced before. And even if you try and look it up, I mean, you chat GPT, will you lose muscle mass when you lose weight? And the answer is yes, but not with these peptides. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, well, I'll actually bring in a case study. So I did a doc talk last Thursday. So every once a month, the second Thursday of each month, I actually interview myself, or I have a little team. So 3 of us, we alternate, but we interview a doctor and usually a couple medical professionals that are thriving in our business and or utilizing our products and can teach on it. And so it's specifically for doctors. So the doctors are kind of talking to other doctors. So we're doing the interview to keep it moving. And I had a guy on that he's joined our team. He's a sports chiropractor, and he's really, really good at doing case studies, and he used DEXA scan. Well, he's been microdosing with GLP-1 since they started like 7 years ago. And so he does very small amounts. He's very good at what he does. He only has them on for a short period of time. But during that period, like you were talking about, the average person on a GLP-1 loses about 40% lean body mass. In bodybuilding or just across the board, somebody that isn't taking something like that, they usually lose about 25% of their lean body mass. So 75% will be fat, 25% will be muscle. That's kind of the normal when you're dieting. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
He did studies where he brought our fit in and our hydrated when he's using the GLP-1s, which normally they're losing 40%, and it dropped it down to 13%.
Wow.
So
Wow.
can you imagine, again, you start to have somebody that's not even using a GLP-1 because that, again, that's creating more of a muscle loss, right? But that our products are counterbalancing it that much. And so, like you said, it's been really amazing to watch how it's impacting people. However, you have to prep people because if you don't share with them what to expect, they have unrealistic expectations. If they're just watching the scale, guess what? They feel like they're not winning because what happens is muscle weighs a lot more than fat. Muscle's also more,
Yeah.
so they could be losing size, but they're not paying attention to that. They're paying attention to the number on the scale, and it's not changing as much. And so, one of the things I would suggest to anybody that's listening to this is set them up by framing what are the expectations so that they come into this looking for those. And then you'll have a lot more happy customers, even if they're losing, fat and gaining muscle. You want to make sure that they understand why they're doing that.
So good.
Dude, that was
That's
an
good.
that was an absolute killer call, by the way. Lots of great information. If you guys have not got a chance to watch it, I did just post a link to it in there. Lots of good data.
So another one, Nate, is if somebody, and you touched on TRT, right? So I got on TRT and I'm taking I take 1 cc of 250 milligrams a week, and I've been on that for probably 7 or 8 years. Um, and I was at my heaviest on it. So even though you're taking TRT, it's kind of like the peptides, right? You still have to put in the effort. They're going to multiply your efforts. Now, what I noticed is, for all you guys out there that are taking TRT and you're trying to put on muscle, I'm stronger now than I've ever been in my whole life, and I've been working out for about 20 years. Is that something that you experienced too? Like when you added fit and hydrate to you to your regime, uh, did your strength go up as well?
Yeah. So I have to be honest, right? I'm coming off of an injury. So
Uh,
I had completely bro, like I was pushing like 5 or 10 pounds with my left side, and like I
yeah,
could 150 with my right. So I mean, it was
yeah,
bad. And so I'm about back to about 80%. But let me say this, I like to look at people that aren't on TRT or aren't on those things because you have a better idea of like what's actually helping that person, right?
Mhm.
And so, and then also understanding though, there's always outliers, right? So the bell curve says that you're always going to have some people that it doesn't impact at all, and you're going to have some people that it impacts like crazy. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to take the middle, right? What's it doing for the average person? But for the sake of this conversation, I'll share with you one of the outliers on the positive side. When I very first started this, I think we were about 3 months in. I had a girl that she had worked out very consistently. I've known her for years, and she eats good, but she wasn't like crazy bodybuilder or fitness or anything like that. She was just fit. And within 3 weeks, and again, this is fast results, but within 3 weeks, she was hip thrusting 100 pounds more than she had before. And the reason I say that I'm using that as an example is women these days, that's like their number one go-to thing. Like they're all trying to work their butt and they're all doing the hip thrust, and so they're all paying attention. And she could not believe that it went up 100 pounds because she had been doing it for years. And so again, she wasn't taking creatine, she wasn't taking any other things that were going to impact that. And so I like to look at women because most women aren't taking a bunch of other things to see, okay, how well is this product actually working?
good. Mark, you're muted. Do we have some more questions?
No.
No. What
Anybody
would
want to
you
chime
tell?
in? Yeah. I mean, anybody have any questions they want to ask? Feel free to
Yeah,
unmute.
I got one.
Go
I
ahead.
just put one. I just put one in the chat about I'm 78. My dad had prostate cancer. How far can I push the TRT before I move myself into a negative zone?
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good question. To be honest, I don't know. Here's what I know about our products because I was talking to a doctor the other day, a sports doctor down in somewhere down in Florida, and he was actually saying he was very impressed with our peptides because um, it's called angiogenesis. There's a lot of peptides, synthetic peptides out there that they have healing properties, and what they do is they actually can feed if you have cancers or cancer runs in your family, they can feed that stuff. And he said he actually did the research behind ours, and he's like, are you guys marketing this? Because he's like, you guys, we could give this to anybody, including those that have cancer or coming out of cancer, those types of things. So I don't know specifically on the TRT, but I do know with our peptides that they're very safe for that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're bad. The TB500 and BPC 157. Mark Nichols has done some research on that, and they're bad about that. Yeah, they regenerate your cells and heal you, but if there's any cancer in the area, they also magnify that. So they're regenerating, they're multiplying the way that grows. Whereas ours, like you said, ours just never would do that. They're all natural.
Yeah, because well, what they do is they're bringing in more capillaries to the area that is having that
Angiogenesis.
injury, and right, and so it's seeing cancer as one of those injuries, and so it's feeding it, and so that's why that it would do that.
Or if I can just interject for a second, I'm a doctor, and
Dr.
angiogenesis
Stu.
is. I'm Dr. Stu's in the house.
Let's go.
Angiogenesis is quite common with a lot of the synthetic peptides, the BPC 157s, all the growth factors, the imipramolins, testamolins, etc. So I'd be very cautious in using those for any prolonged period of time, or even those to use them even with anybody with history of malignancy. In response to the other question about a family history of prostate cancer, the biggest thing really to watch is your total testosterone, free testosterone level, and your PSA on I would do it every 3 months. Some doctors would say every 6 months. But if you notice any significant rise in your PSA greater than 0.5, once you start the testosterone replacement, I would be very concerned. The normal testosterone level typically is around 200 to 1200. So I would typically most people want like 6 to 800, and they do well with a level of 6 to 800. But the biggest issue with the history of prostate cancer and even a family history of prostate cancer is the rise in the PSA level.
Okay, cool. That's great to know.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Good old Dr.
So
Stu, man.
Yeah.
Love me some Dr. Stu.
Nate, I think one of the main
Move
questions that I
on.
get that people send me on the side is what man, how do you get these in a gym? Like they're so beneficial to like, I mean, if you're with Make, you know that everybody in the world should be on fit. It's just kind of the way it is because of all the positive things that it does. But one of the main questions I get asked, and I'd love to hear your response, is if I'm trying to get Make Wellness into a gym, um, without writing a dissertation, how do I explain this to a gym owner? Like, how can this put you above and beyond? Because most of them sell supplements, so they just think you're bringing them another supplement, right?
Yeah, again, me being in their position, when my wife first came in, it was the same thing. Like every day or a couple times a week, you're being pitched some supplement or the next best thing, and number one, you're dealing with that. On the other side, when you have athletes or fitness or bodybuilding people that are running those gyms, a lot of them are self-studied and they know what works for them, and so that becomes their Bible, right? And the same thing with
Mm.
I used to hire guys. Like I was really good friends with Dave Palumbo. Dave Palumbo was a doctor that basically went through his rotations and decided he didn't want to do that, came back to bodybuilding. So very smart in the space. But when he's teaching me stuff, then guess what I'm doing with my clientele? I'm teaching them the exact same stuff. So it's really hard to break into that. Some of it's ego, but some of it also is just that they know what works and their reputation's on the line. And so a couple things. I don't suggest going gym to gym or just cold calling, because it has to be about a relationship, because you have to find somebody that is trusted within their circle. And so if you don't know, let's say the gym owner, and you really want to target them, I would say, okay, who do you know that's within their sphere? How do you influence that person or get that person going? And then you allow them to do that. That's the first thing. The second thing is going in there and truly knowing numbers, and also speaking their language.
Hmm.
A lot of athletes right now, a lot of gym owners are using affiliate marketing. If you throw out direct sales, they're not gonna want to do it, because direct sales as a whole, I would say probably the last 10 years is it's kind of gone backwards as far as its reputation. And they don't know us from anybody else, right? And so we're kind of doing different things in that space. And we're going to continue to kind of, I think, push ourselves kind of out of the direct sales space. But what I would say is I would frame it at the beginning as, hey, this is affiliate marketing that could turn into something really big for you, because people don't have to walk into your four walls in order to do it. I'll say two things, and then I think there's not a lot more to say at this moment. But one is we're getting sports certified, so we're getting informed choice certified within the next two months. When you have a bunch of athletes on it, it'll be a lot easier, because they'll start to see that and they'll start to recognize it. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me kind of concept, right?
Roger
Um,
that.
that's the first thing. The second thing is, anytime I go to a gym, I don't share the gym book. I actually share the doc book, the doctor's reference, and I say, hey, look, here's the deal. Right now, I said in our space, we've got 300 to 400 doctors that are utilizing this either in substitute of or alongside synthetics. This could be something that you could be one of the first gyms to bring on, and it's going to be very popular. You could be the front runner in that. And so I'll position it that way. And again, if it's good enough for the doctor, it might be good enough for them, kind of deal. And so those have softened that and made it easier. But there's more roadblocks and ego to get through on gym owners and trainers than there is on the medical profession. So
Yeah, there really is. What about telling them that so as a gym owner, what was what was your commission on just regular supplements? Like how much money did you make on regular supplements?
yeah, and that's the other problem is you have a lot of supplements that are made very cheaply so that they can increase the price. And so and again, that was a long time ago, but the markups back then were 60 to 80%.
Oh hell,
And
though you can't even use that.
no. So what we can use is affiliate marketing, the average affiliate marketing, like even if you go like TikTok or that kind of thing, the average is 15 to 20%, right? So if you're talking to somebody that's used to affiliate marketing, then you can do that. The way that I kind of get past that for them is, here's the deal: is you're going to make a little bit less on the front side. It's a better product. Number one, it's a product that nobody else really is carrying right now. Number two, and number three, they don't have to come into your four walls. And so we have a customer to customer acquisition system. So I use that so that I start to cast this vision of, hey, here's the deal. Your customer can use it, right? They get results. Guess what? They can pass it on. They can pass it on. You're getting paid the exact same. So you get to 40%, you're making 40% on them, on their friend, on their next friend. That starts to compound over time. And so
Good.
if you can cast that vision, but again, you have to have a relationship to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah, that's good there. Mark, we have any other questions, buddy?
Yeah, what we got?
I think we're good, man. I mean, Rob said something about, has anybody else seen, a testosterone increase with fit? He said he's seen about a 99-point increase over 6 months. But I mean, I would say it's absolutely possible if you're increasing that muscle and you're, working out more, your body's going to naturally increase your testosterone, correct? I mean, just from the activity, just from increasing your lean muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know what kind of numbers to put on it. I haven't had people doing blood work that hasn't been on TRT or that kind of thing. So I would just be guessing. But yeah,
yeah,
definitely. I mean, even movement increase. I mean, Dr. Alan Jones, he wrote his dissertation on sarcopenia. Like he was talking about the increase in testosterone. I think it was by like 13% from just increasing your movement. So,
yeah,
then you talk about increasing your sleep, your REM sleep and deep sleep, and then increasing your body's ability to utilize protein. Like all those things are going to build up, are going to continue to compile.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's good.
Well,
Brian, you got anything for us, buddy?
I think he might have.
No, yeah, my
Yeah.
service is in and out. So, real quickly, I'm just hearing in and out. So it's coming in and out. So I can't really hear much. But Nate, I just wanted to touch base real quickly with you. Thank you so much. It was absolutely incredible to have you on the call. But truthfully, honestly, this is the truth. This isn't just about supplements or a side hustle. It's about ownership of your health, your influence, your example. Make exist because men are tired of being tired and refuse to accept, the decline is normal. When you join Make as an affiliate, you're not just joining to share products. You're sharing a signal that says, I'm done settling. You can help men feel stronger, think clearer, and show up better. And yes, you get paid for creating real impact. If you're already using Make and seeing the change, the question is simple. Who are you not helping by staying silent? This is Make Men Talk. We don't just talk about better men, we build them. This is so important to have people like Nate and the rest of the guys on here and describing it to other men out there what this product, what this company does. We can't thank you enough, Nate. Guys, I appreciate you all taking the time tonight to, come to us. Whoever invited you to this call, whether it's a customer, whether it's an affiliate, whatever it is, please get back with them. If you want to be a customer, if you want to be an affiliate, let them help you out. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. We'll be looking at them later.
Awesome. Love you guys.
Awesome.
Hey, thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
Thanks,
super
Nate.
Appreciate you all. Live it, everybody.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, everybody. Great seeing
Thank-
everyone tonight.
Have a good night, Don.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you
Good
too.
Nate.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Good night.